Patrick sat at a wooden table, the hum of a single light bulb swinging above. His eyes were tired, the kind that had seen too much, held too much, and said too little for too long. Beside him, Eric shifted in his chair, his face unreadable, his voice steady but low. Patrick started. People have been talking. They've been saying things, some true, some twisted up like barbed wire. But nobody ever asked us what really happened. Not once. They just took what they saw on the internet and ran with it. Eric nodded slowly. That's right. Folks think they know the story because of the videos, because of the things that went viral. But nobody knows what it's like to walk up that dirt road in Odd, West Virginia, and see it with your own eyes. Smell the house. Hear the quiet. It ain't something you forget. Patrick leaned forward. We didn't go there for fame. Let me say that first. When I first heard about the Whittakers, I was like everybody else, curious. I saw the videos, saw the way people commented, like they were looking at a show. But it didn't sit right with me. I saw people, not characters. I saw family. Eric glanced down, hands clasped. I got involved because I cared too. I didn't care about the clicks or views. It's just, when you see people living like that, forgotten by everyone, you want to do something. So I reached out. Next thing I knew, I was there. And once you step foot on that porch, you can't walk away the same. Patrick took a breath. It started simple. Just checking in, helping them get groceries, fixing little things. Betty was grateful. She said, "Ain't nobody done this much for us since Daddy died." And she meant it. But the deeper we got, the more we saw. And that's when it got heavy. Eric looked up. People think Betty's this monster. That ain't true. She's strong, stubborn, but she's tired, man. She's been taking care of her siblings her whole life. Lorraine, Ray, Timmy, all of them. And she's doing it in a house that's fallen apart, with no heat half the time and barely any food. She's holding on by a thread. Patrick nodded. The internet painted her like a villain. But she ain't evil. She's human. She makes mistakes. Hell, we all do. But when folks started calling her names, digging her life, showing up uninvited, it broke her down. I seen her cry in that kitchen, whispering that she wished she'd never been filmed. Eric's tone darkened. The cameras changed everything. At first, it was supposed to help him, bring awareness, raise money. But then came the strangers, the tourists, the ones who thought it was entertainment. People drive in hours just to stare at him, to record them like animals in a zoo. That's when I knew it wasn't help anymore. It was hurt. Patrick ran his hand over his face. I try to pull back, try to make it right. But once it's out there, you can't stop it. And then the fight started between me, Eric, and some of the others who thought they knew best. Everyone had an opinion on what should happen, but nobody was listening to the family anymore. They were just talking about them. Eric interjected quietly, and that's when the state got involved. Patrick's jaw tightened. Yeah, that's when it all went to hell. He leaned forward, his voice lowering. You see, someone made a report. I ain't gonna say names because that's not my place, but let's just say it came from someone who thought they were doing the right thing. Said the Whittakers weren't being taken care of. Said there was neglect. Next thing you know, Adult Protective Services was at that door. Eric's hands trembled slightly. They took Lorraine first. Said she needed medical care. Then they came for Ray. Betty fought him. Cried, begged. But it didn't matter. Papers were signed. She lost guardianship right then and there. They told her it was temporary, but once the state steps in, it's never really temporary. Patrick exhaled hard. After that, it was chaos. Rumors spread like wildfire. Folks online said I turned on her. Others said Eric called the cops. Lies everywhere. But the truth? We were trying to help. Just not everyone agreed on what help looked like. Eric looked up sharply. People don't get it. You can't win. If you step in, you're meddling. If you don't, you're heartless. I called because I was scared for him. That's it. I wasn't trying to ruin nobody's life. But now I'm the villain too. Patrick sighed. We stopped talking for a while after that. Me and Eric. The internet got in between us too. People picking sides, saying who was right and who was wrong. And while everyone was arguing online, that family was getting torn apart in real life. Eric's voice cracked. You know what hurt the most? The silence after. No one wanted to talk about what happened to Lorraine or Ray once they were gone. No updates. No visits. Just whispers. Like they disappeared. Patrick looked down at his hands. I tried to reach out. They told me not to. Said there was a restraining order. Said I couldn't have contact with the family no more. Same for Eric. They said it was for their protection. But all we ever wanted to do was protect them in the first place. Eric nodded. That's the truth nobody hears. We didn't walk away. We were forced out. Patrick's voice was low, heavy. I still remember the last time I saw Betty. She stood on that porch, arms crossed, but her eyes looked tired. She said, "They taking everything from me, Patrick. Everything I ever had." And I didn't have words. I just told her I'd fight for her. But fighting didn't do nothing. The system already decided. Eric wiped his eyes. We lost him that day. The family, the bond, all of it. Patrick looked at him. That's why we're talking now. 'Cause people deserve to know the truth. Not the clickbait version. Not the gossip. The truth. He paused, his voice softening. And the truth is, none of us came out of this clean. Not me. Not Eric. Not the system. Not the audience. We all played a part. Eric nodded slowly. And now we're the ones left to explain it. Patrick stared straight into the camera. So if you're watching this, before you comment, before you judge, remember that behind every video, there's a story you don't see. And sometimes, the real story ain't the one you clicked on. He leaned back in his chair, voice quiet but firm. This ain't about drama anymore. This is about what really happened. You've heard the beginning of Patrick and Eric's side. The story nobody online took time to ask about. Do you believe they were trying to help? Or did their involvement make things worse for the Whittakers? Comment your thoughts below. Part 2 is coming, where Patrick and Eric reveal what really went on inside the house before the state stepped in. Eric rubbed his hands together, staring at the floor before looking up. People always ask what it was like inside that house. They think they know because of the videos, but cameras don't catch the smell. They don't catch the cold, the quiet, or the way that place feels when you walk through the door. It's not just poverty, it's generations of neglect that nobody cared to stop. Patrick nodded slowly. The first time I stepped in, I didn't even know where to look. There were clothes everywhere, old newspapers stacked to the ceiling, and the smell of mildew, so strong it stuck to your skin. But then, Ray smiled at me. That smile cut through everything. You forget the dirt. You forget the mess. You just see a man happy to have company. Eric took a breath. Yeah, that smile. It gets you. He'll walk right up, shake your hand, and you realize this man don't know what the world says about him online. He just wants to talk, to laugh. Same with Lorraine. She's quiet, but when she starts humming, you hear peace in her voice. It's the kind of peace that makes you wonder how she survived all this time. Patrick leaned forward. What people don't understand is that Betty tried. She really did. That woman was stretched to her limits. She was cooking, cleaning, making sure they took their pills, and she was doing it all alone. She told me once, if I go, they go. Ain't nobody else gonna take care of him. That stuck with me. Eric nodded, his voice low. She's tough, but she's been through hell. You could see it in her hands, the kind of hands that been scrubbing floors and fixing meals for 50 years. People online love to judge, but not one of them offered to come help. Not one. Patrick's voice hardened. That's the part that kills me. The internet saw a family and turned them into content. Now that you've heard Patrick and Eric's story from inside the Whittaker home, what would you have done? If you were in their place, would you have called for help, even if it meant tearing the family apart? Comment your thoughts below. Part 3 will uncover what happened after the removals and how the internet's obsession made everything worse. The sound of the old clock ticking in the background filled the room where Patrick and Eric sat. Neither of them spoke for a long while. The weight of what had happened to the Whittakers hung thick between them, too heavy to ignore, too painful to fully explain. Finally, Eric broke the silence. After they took Lorraine and Ray, he said quietly, it was like the whole town froze. That dirt road, the one that used to echo with the sounds of their dogs barking, the TV running, Betty shouting for Ray to come eat. It all went quiet. The kind of quiet that ain't peaceful. The kind that feels like loss. Patrick nodded slowly. Yeah, he said, his voice low. It was like they'd sucked the life right out of that holler. I drive up there sometimes, even when I knew I wasn't supposed to. I'd stop by the mailbox just to look up toward the porch. Curtains were drawn. No laughter, no sound. You could feel the emptiness. That house used to breathe. Now it just existed. Eric leaned forward, elbows on his knees. You remember how she used to keep the TV on day and night, even when nobody was watching? She said it kept the spirits away. After they took the family, I drove by one night, and that TV wasn't on no more. That's when I knew Betty had given up. Patrick rubbed the back of his neck. She called me once. Just once. Said, they took everything, Patrick. Everything. And I didn't know what to say. What do you tell somebody who's just lost her whole world? She didn't need words. She needed her family back. And I couldn't give her that. Eric's eyes darkened. People online don't understand what that does to you. They think this was some kind of social media story, some internet drama. It wasn't. This was real life. Real people. Real heartbreak. But the internet don't care about real. It cares about clicks, views, and a headline that sounds juicy. Patrick sighed. Man, they tore us apart online. Said we used the family. Said we filmed for clout. Said we were making money off their pain. I wish people could see how many nights I spent driving back from Odd, West Virginia, with no gas money left, sleeping in my truck 'cause I couldn't afford a motel. All for what? So strangers could say I was fake. Eric shook his head. They call me a liar. They said I wanted fame. Fame? I was begging people to listen. I was begging for somebody to step in and help. And when I finally did call APS, they called me the villain. You can't win. You help, you're the problem. You don't help, you're heartless. Either way, you're wrong. Patrick looked at Eric. It's crazy, right? We went in trying to fix what the world forgot, and ended up getting blamed for breaking it worse. Eric's voice cracked. I still remember the day they came for Lorraine. Betty was screaming. I can still hear her crying out, "You can't take my sister." I thought it'd be a simple checkup, a welfare visit. But once that van pulled up, it was over. They didn't come to help. They came to take. Patrick nodded, eyes distant. They told her it was temporary. Said they'd assess her condition. But I knew what that meant. Once the state gets involved, they don't let go easy. You can lose your whole family over a misunderstanding, and by the time the truth comes out, it's too late. Eric leaned back in his chair. The internet ate that story alive. You remember? All the videos that popped up, Whittaker family rescue, inside the abuse case, Betty exposed. People who'd never met her were talking like they lived next door. Like they knew every secret in that house. They turned that woman's pain into entertainment. Patrick's jaw tightened. And the crazy part? Nobody asked what happened to Lorraine after that. Nobody asked where she went. It's like the minute she was out of the videos, she stopped existing to them. Eric nodded. Same with Ray. I used to drive by just hoping to see him walking in the yard again, wearing that old blue shirt he loved. But he was gone too. Somebody said he was placed in a home. Somebody else said he's staying with a guardian now. Nobody knows for sure. Records are sealed. It's like they vanished. Patrick's eyes watered. I can still see Ray sitting on that couch, playing with his shoelaces. He'd look up at you with that grin, pure, childlike, innocent. And now, he's just a name in a file somewhere. It ain't right. Eric's voice trembled. And Betty, man, she broke. She really did. People called her crazy, said she was abusive, said she didn't deserve to have her family. But I saw the truth. I saw the woman who'd been carrying the weight of everyone's survival for decades. You take that away from her. You take away her reason to live. Patrick nodded. She wasn't perfect. None of us are. But she wasn't evil. She loved them, in her way. People don't understand the kind of love that comes from survival. It's messy, it's loud, it's desperate. But it's real. Eric rubbed his eyes. After it all went down, I got death threats. No joke. People telling me I should rot. That I was a snake. My wife got messages too. Folks saying we were frauds. The same people who were praising us a month before were now trying to tear our lives apart. Patrick leaned forward. You know what hurt most? Not the lies. Not the threats. The silence. Nobody called to ask how we were holding up. Nobody cared if we were okay. They just moved on to the next headline. The world forgot about the Whittakers, but me and Eric were still carrying it. Eric nodded slowly. I'd sit in my car at night, scrolling through the comments, reading the hate. Then I'd go back and watch the old footage, the smiles, the laughter, the way Ray would clap when the camera turned on. It reminded me why I started. But then I'd think about how it ended. It's like the good memories turned into ghosts. Patrick stared at the table. It wasn't just about videos. It was about trying to give them dignity. We wanted people to see that this family wasn't some internet joke. They were human beings. And for a little while, I think we did that. But once the world got its fill, they went back to mocking him. That's what broke me. Eric's eyes narrowed. The same people who said they loved the Whittakers were the ones who ruined him. They couldn't just watch respectfully. They had to dig, expose, accuse. They thought they were savant them, but they just made the cage bigger. Patrick's tone softened. Do you remember that night we brought them dinner from town? Betty made us sit down at the table, said grace before we ate. She said, "You boys are good to us. Don't let them turn you against us." I didn't know what she meant back then. Now I do. Eric's voice cracked again. She saw it coming. The hate, the division, the lies. She knew the world would twist the story. And it did. Patrick looked straight into the camera. After the removals, everything went silent. Nobody's talking about where they are now. Nobody knows how Betty's holding up. And the system? They ain't saying a word. Confidential records. Sealed cases. It's like the family got erased. Eric shook his head. And here we are, the two people who tried to help, sitting here explaining ourselves to the same audience that helped destroy them. Ain't that something? Patrick chuckled bitterly. Yeah, feels like a cruel joke. Eric looked down. I still drive by sometimes. I park a little ways down the road and just sit there, watch the wind move through the trees. It's quiet. Too quiet. I used to think that silence meant peace. Now I know it means absence. Patrick sighed deeply. People ask me if I regret it, going there, getting involved. I don't. I regret what happened after. I regret that love wasn't enough. But if I hadn't gone, I'd still be wondering if I could have made a difference. At least now I know I tried. Eric nodded slowly. Same here. I ain't no saint. I made mistakes. But I did it out of care, not out of greed. I didn't want fame. I wanted change. But this world don't reward people who care. It eats them alive. Patrick's tone softened. You know, I still think about that last day. Lorraine sitting on the couch humming some old tune, Ray Logan about something we said, Betty fussing at him but smiling at the same time. That house was full of life, even in its brokenness. That's what people missed. They weren't just victims. They were survivors. Eric looked straight ahead. We took their story out into the world, and the world used it up. Now it's our responsibility to make sure people remember who they really were. Not a spectacle, not an internet sensation. A family. Patrick nodded, voice thick with emotion. So, if you're listening, don't turn away. Don't just scroll past this story. Remember their names. Betty, Lorraine, Ray, Timmy. Remember that behind every viral video, there's a real person who bleeds, who cries, who hopes. Eric added softly. And if you ever find yourself thinking about the Whittakers, don't think about the drama. Think about the love. Think about the fight. Think about how much they survived before the world ever knew their name. Patrick's voice grew quiet. We can't fix what's been done, but we can tell the truth. And that's what this is, the truth. Not perfect, not pretty, but real. He paused, eyes heavy with remorse. The world came for the Whittakers, and when it was done with them, it left them broken. But me and Eric will never stop speaking their truth, even if nobody listens. Eric nodded, because if we stay silent, the lies win. Patrick looked down at the table one last time. And silence, he whispered, is what destroyed them in the end. Now that you've heard Patrick and Eric's truth about the aftermath, the silence, the loss, the blame, what do you believe? Did they go too far? Or were they just trying to do what the world wouldn't? Share your thoughts in the comments. Part 4 will reveal what's become of Patrick and Eric today, and their final message to Betty and the family they can't forget. Patrick sat in silence for nearly a full minute before speaking, his hands folded together tightly on the table. The light above him flickered once, like even it wasn't sure it wanted to stay on for what was about to be said. It's been almost a year now. He began slowly, since the removals, since the court hearings, since Betty's last phone call. A year since the world moved on, but I didn't. I don't think I ever will. You can't just go into someone's life, try to help them, and then pretend you didn't leave with a piece of them inside you. That family, they changed me. They broke me, too. But they also reminded me what love looks like in its rawest, most desperate form. Eric nodded beside him, his expression worn. Same here. I still wake up in the middle of the night thinking about it. About what we could have done different. About the moment I made that call. About how Betty's face looked when the county van pulled away. It's like a movie that never stops replaying. But you can't change what's already burned into the film. Patrick's voice softened. We started out with good intentions. That's what kills me the most. We didn't go in looking for fame or attention. We went because we saw people living in conditions that no human should have to live in. Because we believed that if the world saw what we saw, someone, anyone, would step up and help. And for a minute, it felt like it worked. Donations came in, letters came in, prayers poured out. But then the internet did what it always does. It twisted it. Eric leaned forward, shaking his head. Yeah, folks think they're helping, but the internet ain't built for compassion. It's built for entertainment. And when the story stops being entertaining, people move on. That's what they did to the Whittakers. Watch them, judge them, turn them into a spectacle, and then forgot them the minute something new came along. Patrick stared at the table, his voice trembling slightly. They don't know what it's like to see the aftermath. To see a porch that used to have laughter and life turn into a graveyard of memories. That house, it's still there, Still standing, but empty. No one goes there now. The neighbors say Betty left months ago. Some say she's living with a distant cousin. Some say she's in a home herself. Nobody really knows. And the county ain't saying a word. Eric's tone dropped to a whisper. I heard the same. Somebody messaged me saying she was placed under supervision. Said she's not allowed unsupervised visits. I don't even know if that's true. All I know is she's gone quiet. And when Betty's quiet, you know she's broken. Patrick's eyes watered. The last time I saw her was in front of that courthouse. She wouldn't look at me, wouldn't say a word. She just stood there, clutching her bag, staring past me like I was a ghost. I tried to tell her I was sorry. Tried to tell her I didn't mean for it to go this way. But she just shook her head. Said, "You said you wanted to help Patrick. Look what your help did. I ain't been the same since." Eric's hands clenched into fists. "We tried, man. We did everything by the book. We went through the county, we talked to APS, we followed protocol. But nobody prepared us for what happens when the system takes over. Once they step in, you're not in control anymore. You can beg, you can plead, but it's like talking to a wall." Patrick nodded slowly. It's the same wall they've been fastened their whole lives. Poverty, disability, neglect. It's a cycle. And when you're born into it, the system don't lift you out. It just labels you. That's what happened to them. They weren't helped. They were categorized, turned into statistics. Eric took a deep breath. And the worst part is, people online think they know everything. They'll say, "Oh, Betty was abusive," or "they were fine before outsiders showed up." But they don't know the truth. They don't know the quiet moments. Like the night Betty sat on that porch, crying because she couldn't afford propane. Or the day Ray hurt his knee and she walked 3 miles to get pain cream. Those are the things nobody filmed. Those are the things that made her human. Patrick's voice cracked. They didn't see her love. They just saw her frustration. They saw her shouting, and they called it cruelty. But that woman had the weight of 3 lives on her shoulders. You try carrying that for decades, and tell me you wouldn't break sometimes. Eric nodded slowly. I used to think she was just hard-headed, but now I realize she was tired. So damn tired. Every day was a battle just to survive. And when the cameras came, it wasn't fame she wanted. It was acknowledgement. She wanted the world to finally see that her family mattered. Patrick took a deep breath. And maybe we failed her there too, because the attention we brought didn't bring healing. It brought scrutiny. Every video, every photo, every rumor chipped away at her dignity. People laughed at their accents, their clothes, their house. And when they couldn't laugh anymore, they accused. That's the cycle of online empathy. Love turns to curiosity. Curiosity turns to ridicule. Eric rubbed his eyes. After it all happened, I went dark online. I deleted everything. I couldn't take it anymore. People kept the skin for updates, sending messages like I was some kind of reporter. But how do you update on tragedy? There's no closure when real people are involved. Patrick nodded. Same here. I stopped posting, stopped talking, even lost friends over it. Some said I should have stayed out of it. Some said I didn't do enough. But they don't get it. When you walk into a house like that and look into their eyes, you can't unsee it. You can't just go home and act like you didn't feel something shift inside you. Eric smiled faintly, though his eyes stayed sad. You remember the day we brought in that air conditioner? Lorraine was sitting in the corner, humming that tune she always did. Ray was tapping his shoe against the floor, and Betty was fussing over how to plug it in. It was hot as hell that day, but when that cold air hit, the whole room changed. They laughed. Patrick, you remember that? All 3 of them Logan. That was the last time I saw joy in that house. Patrick nodded, a tear rolling down his cheek. Yeah, I remember. I remember thinking, this is what help looks like. Not money, not cameras, just a little relief, a little breath of fresh air. He paused, and that's what I wish we could give them again. Not fame, not noise, just peace. Eric leaned back, looking exhausted. Sometimes I think about driving back there, just sitting by the house like old times. Maybe even leaving a note for Betty if she ever comes back, just to tell her I'm sorry. Not for what I did, but for how it ended. Patrick looked at him. I already did. Eric turned his head, surprised. You did. Patrick nodded slowly. A couple weeks ago, I drove out there, middle of the night. Left a letter on the porch. I told her everything. How I never meant to betray her. How I still pray for her and the family every night. I told her I'd take it all back if I could. That I'd rather she hate me for doing nothing than hate me for what happened. Eric's voice softened. Do you think she'll ever forgive us? Patrick stared into the distance. I don't know, but I hope she does. Not for me, for her. Because carrying that kind of hurt will eat you alive. And she's carried enough already. Eric was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his words were measured. I don't know if the Whittakers will ever be whole again. The internet came in like a flood and washed away everything they had. Privacy, dignity, peace. But maybe, just maybe, there's still something left. Maybe Lorraine's singing again. Maybe Ray's smiling somewhere. Maybe Betty's resting for the first time in her life. Patrick smiled faintly. I like to think so. I like to think that somewhere out there, they're not being filmed, not being judged, not being mocked. Just living, quietly, peacefully, like they always wanted. Eric nodded. That's all any of us wanted for them. Patrick took a deep breath and looked into the camera. People always ask me what I learned from all this. The answer's simple. Some stories aren't meant to be told by the internet. Some people deserve privacy more than publicity. And if you ever think you're helping someone by exposing them, ask yourself who it really helps. Them or you. Eric's tone was heavy with emotion. We didn't need to save the Whittakers. We needed to stand beside them. We needed to give them resources, protection, compassion, not cameras. But it's too late now. The story's out there forever. Patrick nodded. And maybe that's our punishment, to live with the memory of what we did, even if our intentions were good. To carry the guilt so they don't have to anymore. Eric looked down, his voice trembling. If Betty ever sees this, I want her to know I never meant to hurt you. I only wanted to help. I'm sorry for every tear you shed. I'm sorry for what was taken from you. And I hope you find peace. Patrick added softly, and to Ray, Lorraine, Timmy, if you're out there and you ever hear this, we love you. We always did. We always will. Patrick exhaled slowly. That's the truth, Eric. That's all we can give now, the truth. Eric nodded. Yeah, no more rumors. No more drama. Just truth. Patrick looked up, eyes red but resolute. People will still twist it. They'll still make their videos, chase their headlines. But at least now, the record's set. The world can do what it wants. We said our piece. Eric leaned back, whispering, maybe that's all the closure we get. Patrick smiled faintly. Maybe, but I'll take it. He paused, his voice softening. Goodbye, Whittakers. Wherever you are, I hope you're finally free. After everything Patrick and Eric revealed, the silence, the guilt, the regrets, do you believe they were heroes who cared too much or men who made a fatal mistake? Do you think the Whittakers will ever find peace after the storm? Comment your thoughts below. And remember, some stories don't need to trend to matter. They just need to be told with heart.